So the main reason why Man City didn't lose that game, and that was so important, by the way. It doesn't matter that they didn't win, it doesn't matter that they drew, it just matters that they didn't lose, and Arsenal were in the same boat. But the main reason was because of Jack Grealish. That is why Man City did not lose the game. It isn't the only reason, because Arteta's subs, in my opinion, were a little questionable. I think he's a brilliant manager. I do think, though, yesterday he did get that wrong. He doesn't get many things wrong, but I thought he got that wrong yesterday, bringing on, what was his name, Kivior, and the young kid for Calafiori, who I actually thought had a bit of an underrated game. I know he scored, and people will say that was the positive. I actually don't think he was doing bad defensively in that game either. But he brought on Kivior, and I just did not think that was the move. And he brought him on for Timber, who I actually thought was on par with Saliba and Gabriel that game, and has been the entire season. So I'm not sure why he brought him off for Kivior, who we know isn't at the level to win a Premier League title, which is what you're playing for in this game. But Jack Grealish, this for me is the main reason Man City didn't lose. He came on in the 78th minute, and he had more effect in the second half than any other Manchester City player. People will say John Stones won the game. No. Jack Grealish, not won the game, drew the game. No, Jack Grealish was the main reason. The guy was just direct, and it was so frustrating watching Man City yesterday. Ruben Diaz was getting all the ball. I'm not sure why. It was just passing, and I'm not sure why people don't understand. The best way to defeat a low block is to take the man on, take a man out of the game. If you just keep passing, the chances of you scoring from a deflection, you can do it, but it's much lower than bringing on Jack Grealish and letting him take on his man. And if you look before the corner that they score from, the short corner, which Jack Grealish takes, by the way, if you look at that, who won the corner? Jack Grealish, because he beat his man, Ben White, because he can go both ways, Jack Grealish. So he's just so difficult to defend in that situation. And I'll analyse the goal a little bit, not to a super, crazy level, but I think it's interesting what Jack Grealish does and how he opens up room for the other players, which is the whole point of Jack Grealish. Savinho didn't do enough. Doku, I said Man City would win the league because this guy would become good, become world class this season, or a level of world class. It's just not happening. This is a player, he's left me so frustrated, Jack Grealish, at his time as Man City, because Doku takes his man on, Savinho takes his man on. We've seen that yesterday for the goal. But Jack Grealish so often, leaves, for me, he leaves 70% of himself on the pitch. The amount of times he comes on and he passes to the fullback, it's just not good enough for me, a lot of the time. And I think at the end of his career, he'll just have some left that he didn't get out of himself in the way that Man City play. I don't think it allows him to be himself. But I say that, he does it last night, and he did have it in moments in the treble season, and Doku and Savinho do it. So I think you can only blame Jack Grealish for his performances. But last night, he came correct. He came on with the right attitude, with the right quality. And again, I'm going to say it again, he's the reason why Man City didn't lose the game. So if we look at this first screenshot, so he's about to get the ball. And the reason I like this is because a lot of players would have jogged because they want the ball actually a bit closer to the corner flag so they can cross it. And with how Man City were playing, I think they would have done this. A lot of those Man City players would have done this. What Jack Grealish does is he sprints to get onside because he wants to run at the fullback. And that is basically the only way you're going to score here, because David Raya is the best goalkeeper in the league at collecting crosses. It frustrates me so much when people cross the ball against Raya, and it's just one of those lazy crosses. you're not going to score if you do that versus Raya. Spurs did that a few times. Porro did it. Oh, and it drove me insane. So this just shows for me intelligence. He sprints because he wants to take his man on, and it's Kai Havertz. So I like that he did that. And then, of course, he gets in the box. For me, I got to say, by the way, Arsenal's defending is atrocious on this short corner. How Havertz is there alone. And then you have 3 players coming over to Grealish, which we'll have a look in a minute. For me, Arsenal have to come over, don't they, as a unit. It's poor. They switched off. But Jack Grealish again into the box now. So there's a pretty good chance of scoring. And the final screenshot is, if I get it up. No, that's the first one. So the final one, we now have, this is what Jack Grealish does. Because he takes his time on the ball, it's like a slow kind of, he's teasing you almost. So what he's done is he's teased the Arsenal players. He's brought 3 of them over, which has now left Kovacic free. And the reason why he's free Kovacic is because Grealish can go both ways. I believe that's Ben White in the red boots, is it? Ben White's covering kind of that option if he goes to the left as well, which means, I don't know why Thomas Partey comes over, to be honest. But then Kovacic is alone. Grealish drags them in. Perfect decision making. Pass to Kovacic, who then shoots. And John Stones scores. And I was a very happy man as a Spurs fan, to be honest. I have to say, I was celebrating this Man City goal. I wasn't celebrating it, but I was pretty happy at that time. I just couldn't believe they actually did it. They defended so well, Arsenal, but when you get a player of that talent, like Grealish is, which is why I get so frustrated, this is what can happen, you know, and Man City can bring on £100 million players like Grealish and win the league. This is why they win the league, you know, ultimately, isn't it? They have the best team, they have the best squad, and I think Arsenal are feeling the same kind of bullshit that Liverpool had to deal with as well. Just lastly, though, if I was Jack Grealish, I would heavily consider leaving Man City. If he can get into that team, which I think he should, now I think that performance should get him into the side. And to me, they actually do look better with him in at the moment, rather than Doku. But if he gets back out of that team or his performances are not there, I do think he should have a look elsewhere. Spurs? No. That would be a big downgrade, of course. But he should be putting in 8 out of 10 performances every week, Jack Grealish, with the occasional 9, the occasional 10 maybe. He's so talented and he's so good that it just feels so wasted at Man City. And he's getting trophies. He's playing a big part like he has there. And in the treble season, he scored so many important goals for Man City. But last year, you know, he scored 1 goal. No, sorry, he scored 3 goals and 1 assist, I believe. Like, he's not a statistics man, but that is still really poor. In the treble season, he scored 5 goals, 7 assists in the Premier League. But when you get the performances on top of that, that makes it pretty good. It's almost like Ryan Giggs. Ryan Giggs used to get, 11 assists a season, maybe 8 goals. That's similar to Grealish. But it's the performance then on top of it, which makes them a special player. And for him to get 3 goals, 1 assist was poor last year. And if this continues, if he stays on the bench, I would consider leaving. But for Pep, I think he has to play him. Surely. He's played himself right into a good chance of starting the next game. But yeah, Jack Grealish saved Pep Guardiola's ass.